All right, so for this project, we'll be taking a quick look at the rise and fall, and rise of democratically elected government in South Korea. As you can see, we've got democracy score over time here for indicators, population remaining for the bubble to keep things more consistent. We've got the United States as control on the high end here at 10, and North Korea representing the low end. Let's take a look here, and you'll see quite a dynamic rises and falls occurring in South Korea over the past 60 odd years. Now, from the period of 1948 up until 1953, this was quite a lot of economic and political turmoil. The UN had sponsored a general election. Through this, putting into power President Ri. During that period of time, he maintained quite a chokehold on the government and actually introduced reform to extend his presidential term limits until things came to a head and mass protests and riots broke out, leading to an election in 1960. Now, almost immediately, however, with the election in 1960, you'll see a huge drop within a year's time. This is actually due to a military coup. From there, the leader of that military coup ended up instituting democratic elections and promised that he would abdicate the presidency and not run again at the end of his term. Now, from there into the 60s, you'll begin to see it evens out a little bit here, and that's where we're going to take a bit of a closer look at some more of the economic trends as well. Now, North Korea and South Korea were divided. North Korea maintained the industrial was the main industrial area for the Korean Peninsula as a whole. South Korea having the agricultural. As you can see from this chart, we've set the bubble here to represent agricultural production, and you'll notice that as the years go by, that shift away and begin to siphon out into other industries in order to support the economy. So, 1960, military coup drops it down, but from there, at the end of that term, the democratic election was put into place. However, that general stayed and maintained power up until the early 70s, in which time he ended up declaring martial law in order to try and keep a hold of his power, and then maintained that all the way up until 1979, 1980, where the general was assassinated by a member of his cabinet, which was also short-lived, as another military coup led by another major general occurred 1980. From there, in 1981, a Major General Chun, then acting President Chun, did end up instituting another new constitution put in place to directly limit presidential terms, give more power to the General Assembly and elected officials. However, due to it being occurring over military takeover, the people were still quite oppressed as far as that end of things goes. So you'll notice here the major shift from agriculture, moving out of agriculture, and these economic policies were put into place in the early 1970s, and then every official government head from then on decided to maintain those economic policies. So you'll see a major spike here. 1981, 1986 was President Chun's term. So after his term ended acrimoniously, as he was mass protests took to the streets once more, he did uphold his end of the bargain and held a direct election in 1987. At that point in time, that was the first Korean president that was civilian, as opposed to coming from results of military coup. And then from there, parliamentary elections were held in 1993. and then local government in 1998.